I've been using the HIKMICRO Alpex Pro A50PL for quite some time now, and I'm getting quite used to it, and it's quickly becoming my sort of go-to night vision scope, to be honest. But I know a lot of people are put off at the thought of using not only this scope but other digital scopes as well by what they perceive to be the complexity of, you know, digital platforms, menus, sub-menus, all that kind of stuff. So what I thought I'd do is I thought I'd just run through the menus on the scope, the main ones that I use anyway, and then talk about the whole process to zero the rifle, and also to set up the ballistic calculator function as well. Right, well, let's set the scope into record mode, which is a press on the bottom left hand button on the I bell, and then a long press on the middle button brings up a shortened menu, and you can see the first option there is your brightness level, your screen brightness level. So if you press on that, you can see that there's 10 different levels of brightness that you can dial in manually, or you can also set an auto function as well. I must admit I prefer to have mine on a manual setting. And then there's also 10 different levels of contrast setting as well that you can choose through. The next button down, this is your different daytime modes. So short press on that middle button again, you can see there that we're in the day colour mode at the moment, and let's just sharpen up that focus, there we go. That's the day colour mode. Then you can scroll down to the night mode, which is the traditional monochrome night mode that you would use in conjunction with an IR torch. Then you also have a night green mode and a night yellow mode as well, and then there's an auto function as well, which will swap for you automatically depending on the light levels. And I must admit I tend to prefer to keep mine on a manual, so I choose day and night whenever I want to use. Next one down is albums, so you can look at whatever your recorded footage is. And then the next one down, the advanced settings, this gives you access to the much bigger menu. So a short press on that takes you into the bigger menu. So the first option is the Wi-Fi. So if you click on that, you can see that there's a couple of Wi-Fi options there, 5G and 2.4G, if you want to connect to the HIKMICRO app, for example. Now you get 5 different profiles, A, B, C, D and E, and each one of those has 5 different the ability for you to save 5 different distance and ammunition types in it. So you get 25 different saved aim points, ammo points, that kind of thing. Next one is zeroing. I'm not going to spend too much time on that just now, because we're going to go through the zero menu separately, but that's where you will go to zero. And that also incidentally includes the ballistic calculator function too. Reticle mode, that's an interesting one. So, oops. Get back to that. So a short press on that gives you the option of either a central reticle, which basically means as you go through the magnification range, the reticle will stay in the center of the screen. The fixed reticle option will keep the reticle fixed in the position that it ended up in once you'd finished your zeroing. Now I prefer to keep mine on the central reticle. Next one is pre-record. So you can, and this only really works on recalling rifles, to be honest, not PCP rifles. Oh, is that there's a little deer down there? There's a fox. Is that a fox? No, it's a little deer down there, a little muntjac deer. Look. Would you look at that? So you can have, you can either pre-record 5 seconds before you take your shot, and 5 seconds after you take your shot, 10 seconds before and after, or 15 seconds before and after. As I say, it doesn't really count on PCP air rifles. WDR, that's an interesting one. I think that stands for wide dynamic range. Don't quote me on that, but basically it means that it will take into account diverse levels of light and will make adjustments in terms of brightness and contrast for you on the fly. And it's also quite handy for taking out any issues with shadows, for example, under trees or whatever. And there's a magpie as well now. Ballistic laser rangefinder, you've got several options here. The most interesting ones are, you can see hopefully there's a little green square there. If I put the green square on the monk jack down the bottom there, you can choose different, so that's that square is what you would put on your target when you're range finding. So you put that on your target, you press the rangefinder button, which is the bottom right button on the eye bell, and then the laser splash will read the distance to that square reticle there. Now you can change that to different designs, so you can have a round circle with some lines on it, you can have a dot. I prefer the square, if I'm honest. And then you can also change the colours as well, so you can just scroll through different colours for that laser rangefinder reticle. Come out of that. Next one down is an auto screen function. So this is an interesting one. So with the auto screen function enabled, the scope will go into a standby or a sleep mode. If you like point it down at the ground or something like that, it will go into an automatic sleep mode to preserve your battery. Then when you lift the rifle up to horizontal or near horizontal to take a shot, then it will wake back up again automatically. The microphone, you can switch the microphone on or off for recorded footage. Smart IR is quite a good function, so that will take care of adjustments on the fly of the infrared illumination. If it suddenly gets very, very bright or very, very dark, it will take care of those variances in IR intensity for you to keep the image nice and clear. You can also, OSD is the on-screen display, so you can choose whether you want that on or off. So if you like a really, really clean screen, then you can switch that off. That will take most of the information off the screen for you. If you want to have information like your battery run time, magnification that you're on, that kind of stuff, then you want to switch it on. You can also switch on or off the on-screen information, which tells you whether you're canting the rifle off of the horizontal plane like that, and also how much of an elevation you're aiming up and down. You can switch on or off the brand logo. That's the USB connection is obviously related to when you're downloading footage. Language is fairly obvious, as is screen style, so you can either choose between a round screen image or a square screen image. I like a round one. Time, that's fairly obvious, so's date. Now your measurement units, you can choose between yards or meters. If you choose yards, then as you'll see when we go into the ballistic calculator setup, the things like the velocity will be measured in, or will be displayed in feet per second. If you go into meters, then it will be displayed in meters per second, and also it relates to the information that the laser rangefinder provides as well. There's an auto power off function, remote access, and then there's some restore and reset functions as well. You can set a passcode, and that obviously tells you what version you're on. And then you go all the way back to the beginning again. And then a long press takes you back each level you were before, and then we can switch off the recording. Now what I'm going to do next is show you hopefully how to zero the scope. So first thing to do is set the recording on the scope going again. Right, and then long press on the top button to bring up that shorten menu, then go down to advanced settings, short press on that. Right, first thing you want to do is choose what kind of which one of the profiles you want to use. So I'm going to go into that, and I'm going to choose profile C because I think that's a blank one, and then go down to zeroing, to the zeroing icon, short press on that, and choose, that's the first one of the 5 different settings that I've got in profile C. So first thing to do is bullet. Well, you can name a bullet if you want to. I don't tend to bother with that. And then you can choose your reticle type. So you get 10 different reticle choices. Just scrolling through those now. 7, 8, 9, 10. I think we'll choose 1. Keep it nice and clean. Then you can choose the opacity of the reticle itself, so that's the thickness of the lines. So hopefully you can see here, you get 1 is very, very thin, 2 is slightly thicker, 3 thicker still, 4 is thicker still, and then 5 is the thickest, so we'll keep it on that to start with. Then you can choose your reticle colour, so you've got a choice of red, black, white, grey, white, orange would that be? Blue, yellow, green, so lots of different choices of reticles. I think I'm going to stick with red. Then you can choose a different colour for the centre of the reticle. Let's just do that. So you can see a little mark right in the middle of the reticle there, that's black, grey, white, orange, blue, yellow, green. I like green, keep that. And then next one down is the correction itself. So once you press that, you can set your zero distance. Now I've just zeroed this on the scope and I know it's 23 yards. So I'm just going to take that round to 0, 23 yards. Long press saves that. So when you're zeroing, so you can see now that the green dot is right in the middle of the reticle. So you can choose the magnification that you want to use for zeroing. Now I would go up to probably 8 times, or do me over 23 yards. Now what you want to do is, we'll fire off a quick group here. Just to see where we're hitting. Right, you can see here that we're hitting low and right. Sorry, low and left. Now if you go down to the next option, you can see that sort of snowflake sign. What you'll need to do is just hold the centre of the reticle on your aim point, and then just push the top button to freeze the image. You might have to do it 2 or 3 times to sort of get the dot that's near enough. So once you've frozen the image, then you can move the rifle around as much as you want and it doesn't really matter. So then you go down to the X and Y axis, press that. So your X axis is windage. So what you'll need to do is just rotate the collar round to the left until that's roughly in line with your impact point. Then go down to the Y axis, which is your elevation. Rotate that down until you can see the scope, the reticle now is covering the impact point. Then press that middle button to save it, and you'll get save the parameters question mark. Press OK, and now if we come out of that completely, we'll fire a test group and make sure we're on 0. There you go. That's bang on 0 now. So that's the scope zeroed. What we do now is we'll talk about the setting up the ballistic calculator. I'll sharpen it up a little bit. Right, so first thing to do is to press that center button on the top turret there to go to advanced settings. Press it again and we go into the zeroing function once more and press that. Then go all the way down to the second page of the zeroing page till you get to that ballistic calculation function, and then press on that. So the first thing you'll see there is a simple on-off switch to switch the ballistic calculator function on or off. Obviously you're going to want it on. Now hopefully you can see in the middle of the screen there, you've got a red cross just below the center point of the reticle. That is your revised aim point. So what you'll want to do is, when you put that green rectangle on your target and press the bottom right hand button on the eyeball, that will read the distance to your target, and then the ballistic calculator will imprint on the reticle the holdover that you need, and that will be indicated by that green cross. Now the thing is, you can change that green cross to a different design if you want. You can have a horizontal line or a couple of little arrows like that. You can have an upward pointed triangle or a dot. I prefer to stay with the cross. And you can also change the colour of that indicator as well. So you can have that obviously green, red, black, grey, white, orange, blue, yellow, or stick with the green, which is what I do. Now once you've decided on all of those different options there, go down to the parameters box and press click, and this is the main screen that you'll want to put information into. Now drag model, go with G1, that's the best model for a pellet. I put the gun on the chronograph a little while ago, and that was shooting at 780 feet per second, so obviously you dial that in to set to your velocity. Altitude, I wouldn't worry too much about that, nor temperature to be honest. And then ballistic coefficient, this is quite an important thing, so you'll need to look up online to see what the ballistic coefficient is for the pellet that you're using. Now I'm using JSB Exacts 0.177 grain caliber pellets, 8.44 grains, and the ballistic coefficient for them is 0.019. so again you just enter that into the menu there, long press on the middle button to save, and then sight height. Now there's probably all kinds of clever ways of measuring the sight height, and it's the distance between the middle of your scope lens and the middle of your barrel. So this point here to sort of this point here, the middle distance between the two points there. Now as I say, all sorts of clever ways of doing that. I just use a tape measure to be perfectly honest, and it's always done me okay. And on this scope it's 1.75 inches, which is what I've entered in there. Then I wouldn't worry too much about wind direction or wind speed. And then once you've done all of that, you save it all, and hopefully all of your ballistic calculator information will be entered into the screen. So come out of all of that, and moment of truth, we'll shoot a group now. I think I've just double loaded at our 20 meter 0, sorry, 23 yard 0. So you can see that green cross has gone right to the middle of the reticle again. 23 yards. And that is still bang on 23 yards. Now I put a target out to 30 something yards, so we'll just see what that's like. So let's laser range find that. Put that green box on your target, press that back right hand button, that's 33 yards. Right. So hopefully that will be, yeah, that looked pretty good. Let's just zoom in a little bit. Ignore that mark down the bottom there, not sure what that is. That's not too bad, probably need to just adjust the 0 a little bit, I'd say. Oh, that's a bit of a wrong one. User error. Yeah, that's pretty much on song there. Right, so let's take it out to 40 yards now. So I'm just going to drop the magnification. So put that green box on your target, press the button, and that gives you a distance of 43 yards. Incidentally, if you long press on the laser rangefinder button, you'll get the picture-in-picture mode up. But yeah, short press on the button, 43 yards, and you can see that green aim point has dropped right down now, indicating 1.8 inches of holdover. So we're just seeing if how close that is. There's a little bit of right to left wind drift here. Let's see how we go on. No, that's not too bad. Oh, that wasn't so good. Yeah, that's on. Yeah. Got my eye in now. So hopefully you can see there, and forgive the level of marksmanship, but at so we zeroed at 23 yards. At 33 yards it gave us a little bit of holdover, the ballistic calculator, and was dropping us pretty much on the bullseye. And then at 43 yards gave us even more holdover and was dropping us on the bullseye again. Well, I hope that's given you a little bit more insight into the features and functions, the menus and submenus on the HIKMICRO Alpex Pro, and also how to go through the whole process of zeroing the scope and setting up the ballistic calculator as well. If you'd like more information, the best thing to do is to check out the scottcountry.co.uk website. Thanks very much for watching.